Hey, Robin Wilson here with SCP Agency, and I want to talk today about creating leaders, really. It's just the long and short of it. If you're an entrepreneur, even if you're not an entrepreneur, if you're a manager or a general manager or any kind of leadership position within whatever organization you're running or help to run for someone else, you should be thinking about creating leaders. Hell, as a parent, my job is to consider creating leaders, right? I want my sons and my daughter to grow up and be leaders. So how do I give them the tools to do that? And it's funny because people will show leadership tendencies, right? You'll see them in your organization and they just start to take root, and you forget all of the knowledge that you've consumed over the last decades or whatever to have the wisdom that you have how to lead people and how to be a good, strong leader, right? And so you're like, oh my God, they have leadership capabilities. Let's put them in this leadership role. They're going to do great. They're going to do great. And then you just forget that you have to keep feeding them. You just have to keep feeding them. So I constantly have books, like literally brand new books, like that I've read this book, but like this one, I just buy several of them at a time. This one right here is called The Traveler's Gift. And it's one of my favorites. It's business fiction, right? So it's written in a story format to show you some principles. But it's fantastic. And I'm just going to read you a little bit of the insert of it. I've read it so many times. I've probably given this book away at least 50 times. I've given this book away, right? 46-year-old David Ponder feels like a total failure. I've been there. Once a high-flying executive in a Fortune 500 company, he now works part-time, minimum wage job. His wife makes more money than he does by cleaning houses, and he drives an old car with a mismatched fender and a heater that no longer works. Then an even greater crisis hits. His daughter becomes ill and he can't afford to get her the medical help that she needs. When his car skids on an icy road, he wonders if he even cares to survive the crash. And then it goes through several different lessons that David Ponder learns during his travels. It's one of my favorite books for a million reasons, but the principles that it teaches inside help me in my business, in my life, with my family, with everything. So this is one that and it's such an easy read, like it's a weekend read, right? The Traveler's Gift. And anytime I have those young fledgling people who are becoming leaders within my company, and they're like, Robin, what should I read? What do you recommend for me to get better at my job? I'll always grab one of these. Always grab, and I always have like some of them sitting on my shelf next to my desk, just to give away. This one right here is a giveaway. Whenever somebody comes and asks, it's ready to give away. If I have somebody that I had a friend of mine this week that I knew I was giving a gift away this week. I always give something away every week. And I was like, man, I really want to send the Traveler's Gift to Mark. So I just go into Amazon. I have like a little saved portion there, and I just go send this one to Mark. So this is one book, right? So this is one of the things that I feed my people whenever they need to learn how to be the leader that they have the natural tendencies for, but maybe they just don't have the tools, right? They've got the ability, they just don't have the skills yet. Any books on habit? The Power of Habit is a good one right here. There are several books on habit. I love understanding the neural pathways in the mind and how do we overcome them? How do we retrain those neural pathways and create better habits, change old habits? Because you really can't stop a habit. You just change the tendency to want that reward. So you change the reward to something else, right? So when that urge comes, you just change it. So this is a really good one. And then there's another one on habits that I really like too. I'll think of it in a minute though. This one is great. This is a little tiny. I've given this one away a couple times too. So this one is what you can, when you can. And if you struggle with diet and exercise, or like I really wanted to get to the gym for an hour. Let me see if you guys can actually see that. But I only have like 20 minutes, and so then you just don't go. Well, what you can, when you can says something is better than nothing. So doing something is always better than nothing. How can you do that? So this is a really great one for that. I have a lot of women that work on in my company, in our company. Like we're probably 98% women. And when you have that many women that work for you, one of the things that inevitably comes up is relationship stuff, right? And so Dr. Laura Schlesinger wrote a book called The Proper Care and Feeding of Husbands. And she just surveyed so many men and so many women, like what is it that makes you happy? What will make you happy? What thing are they not doing that would turn your whole relationship around? And it's pretty eye-opening. I read it several years ago, and then I gave it to my daughter-in-law, and I probably need to give it to my 2 other daughter-in-laws now, but it is such a good book. Whenever, I think younger women just get in their head so much, right? They're just so insecure about stuff, and they get in their head. And really, I could summarize this book for you in like 3 things. What do men want? What will make my marriage happy? Well, you have to feed them. They like to eat. You have to let them know they're doing a good job. Every once in a while, just tell them they're doing a good job. And they would like to have sex. And if those 3 things are covered, they're pretty happy. But you can read the book. It's a really good one. I don't have a copy of it here with me right now. And then anything that John Maxwell writes is generally always really good. I like Simon Sinek also, but John Maxwell does some really good fundamental stuff on how to be a good leader. And that may be a more advanced book for any of you people that you're bringing up through the ranks. But if you haven't read these yourself, please don't hand them off to them. Don't be going, oh, I heard this is a good book. You have to be able to have a dialogue with them about it after they've read it or while they're reading, or I don't understand this part of it. And I don't mean that you just read it and then put it back down. Most of these books I'm telling you, I've read more than once, several times more than once, or I've listened to them on Audible more than once. And I do that a lot. This one is really cool. Now, this one is a little, I don't know if you know who Lewis Howes is, but I listened to his podcast. I've been to his Summit of Greatness. And this one is really cool, and it's a booklet, right? So it is The Millionaire Morning. And it really is just some principles for, I read it a lot. Like, look how thin this is. Seriously, it's a booklet, right? So many times we just get in our head and we forget what our practices should be to start our day out right. And what do the wealthy people do in the mornings? How do they live their lives that's different than us? So how can we incorporate any of that and move forward and just climb that next rung of the ladder, which is all most of us are really looking to do. But some things that I picked up from this little booklet, some things that I do every day. So I kind of hybrid a lot of things, right? Like, so 75 hard with Andy Frisella, right? So that diet, I haven't done it. I'm pretty sure that I, at this moment in my life, don't have what it takes to complete 75 hard. But one of the components of 75 hard is to read 10 pages a day. And I do my best to do that every day. I get up early in the morning, like I get up about 5:30. And my husband is still asleep, so I go downstairs. Generally, I work out first. I set my workout clothes outside my bedroom door so that I don't wake him up in the morning, and I go downstairs, change clothes, go work out. I have a Peloton tread and a Peloton bike in the basement. And so I will go down there and work out, and then I come upstairs, feed the dogs. No phone. Like, I don't pick up my phone at that point, and then I sit down and I read 10 pages. Okay, so I got that habit from 75 Hard. Okay. Then I have a journal, and if you should go Google this. I watched a video by Steve Harvey, and if you just Google list of 300 Steve Harvey on YouTube, if you pull that up, whatever, you can watch this video of his. And so the premise that he speaks about on here is that you have not because you ask not, and then you don't write it down. So he said to get a list of 300 things that you have, that you want to have, do, be, whatever. And he even tells you in this video, like, getting to 75 is going to be a struggle. Getting to 300 is going to be astronomical. So I set myself a challenge. At first I was like adding 10 a day, and then I was like adding 5 a day. And then once I got to, I think once I got to 300, I was just adding 1 a day. And I would go back through, because sometimes I would put things on there twice. So I went through at one point and I crossed out the things that I had duplicated on my list. And then I counted them all up again to see where I was at, and I was under 300 again, so I had to add back up to that point. And then I go through, so I add one thing to my list of 300. So I read 10 pages, I add one thing to my list of 300, and I read my list of 300 things every day, the things that I would like to have. And then as I receive them, I have a yellow highlighter and I mark them off in my journal that I've already received them. And Steve Harvey says if you do this, that at the end of 1 year, you will have received at least 10% of them. You will have already brought that into your life or made that or created it. And I'm like way over 10% already, so that's really kind of cool. So my millionaire morning is I read my 10 pages, I read my list of 300, I add one thing to my list of 300, and then I outline what my day is going to look like, right? Before any of the noise, the emails, the phone calls, the text messages, the Facebook messages, before any of that ever starts in my day, I plot out what my day looks like, what appointments I have, what things I need to get accomplished, what my business goals are. So another thing that I've kind of hybrided in, so we are a part of EOS, which is Entrepreneurial Operating System. If you've read the book Traction or Rocket Fuel, then you'll understand what that's about. So we have to-dos and rocks and issues that we have to deal with. And so those are on my list first because I've stated that those are my most important things within my organization and my leadership team. So after I do those things, then I have my cup of coffee, I may check in on my phone, go take a shower, and get ready for work. But I do all of those things first before I start, right? So Millionaire Morning is a booklet by Lewis Howes. I would check it out. I really think this is like $9.99, and there's no way to get it other than going to lewishowes.com. Oh, actually, you can go to themillionairemorning.com. Can you see that? And order it. It'll come in the mail. So as we started this conversation, you and I today, we were talking about growing leaders. And that's how I grow them. I also work through every one of my leadership team every year. We implement what's called a passion planner and a passion roadmap. We map out every year. They look forward to this every year. Matter of fact, we were so excited yesterday because the passion planners for 2021 came out, I guess this week. I don't know when they came out. But I saw them and I'm like, oh, so my leadership team, I'm like, hey, passion planners are out there. Like, oh my God, we all get excited to see what the new designs are going to be every year. I don't know why. I always order the black one so I can put stickers all over it because that's kind of my jam. But I also know what their goals are because I work through them every year with them. We sit down and go, where do you want to be in 3 months, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? What is your game changer goal? What's the one thing on your list of things that you want to have, do, or be that if you had it, it would affect the other things on your list, so many more of them. Let's focus on that thing, and then what are the steps to get that game changer goal completed by the time that we want it done? So creating leaders is not just finding these leaders on your team and giving them the job. It's growing them into the people that we know that they can be. And sometimes they decide after a while that they don't want to be a leader. That's too much pressure. It's not for them. And you have to be okay with that. because it's their life. You chose your path, they're choosing theirs. So I would recommend, if you're an entrepreneur and you're raising leaders, I would recommend The Traveler's Gift #1. And there's several other good ones. If you ever just hit me up, I'll be glad to give you the list of stuff that I always recommend reading-wise. And you just got to invest in them. You got to invest in them becoming a leader and what you want them to teach the rest of your people. If they're going to be a leader in your organization, what moral compass do you want them to have, and what leadership principles do you want them to be behaving off of? And if you will give them those tools, then they will most likely not let you down when they're handling the rest of your employees that you've given them charge of. So go grow some leaders today. I've got some out here that may need some of my attention.